Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The life of the Prophet Muhammad. The sixth session. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Brothers and sisters all over the world. Muhammad was not to seek any conciliation. He was in the hands of God. He was sure that another higher will was directing his destiny, and that the only way out was for the Quraysh to see, despite all its pride and vested interest, that its shame lay in worshipping useless idols that could not direct man to piety and righteousness in this world to save them in the next on the great day of judgment. He was sent through the mercy of God to make the Arabs a worthy people dedicated to the cause of serving mankind and their creators. The Quraysh and its mass supporters heaped ridicule and contempt upon the Prophet and his mission, and threw dirt on him wherever he went, but to no avail. He still preached publicly and went to the Kaaba to pray in his own way. Ultimately, they decided to take extreme measures against his family, the Hashemites. They refused to have any contact with them, to marry with them, or even to trade with them. They pledged themselves to that end in a proclamation which they placed in the sacred Kaaba. Abu Talib wisely and quietly took stock of the situation and decided to withdraw to a valley on the eastern outskirts of Makkah, where he and loyal Hashemite entrenched themselves. He wanted to avoid bloodshed, and all Hashemite supporters, except Abu Lahab, felt the same way. The Muttalib clan, cousin of the Hashemite, followed suit and also entrenched themselves in the sea, a short, close valley, deprived of everything for more than 2 years. The Hashemite and their supporters endured extreme hardship. Food was scarce. There was not enough to meet their needs. Some of the merciful people of the city would now and then smuggle a camel load of food and supplies to them. Hardly any new converts were made during this period. Most of those convert who remained outside the city took refuge in Abyssinia. Nevertheless, the prophet's determination and courage never weakened. He continued to go to the Kaaba and to pray publicly. He used every opportunity to preach to outsiders who visited Mecca for business or on pilgrimage during the sacred month. He never doubted God's ultimate victory. In the third year of boycott and siege, many Quraysh leaders began to feel guilty about isolating their kinmen to preach in the sea. After all, the majority of those boycotted and besieged were not even converted. They were idol worshippers like themselves, but they were going through this trial just the same, in keeping with their code of honor for the protection of a kinsman who had always been a truthful and honest person. The moderate found an excuse in that the proclamation suspended in the Kaaba under the watchful eyes of the idol gods was eaten by worms. The merciful party thus took courage. They, their leaders put on their arms and went to the ship where the exile had been suffering and extricated them. And so, in the 8th year of the Prophet mission, the convert, his uncles Abu Talib, and the clan that had honored its tribal tradition in giving protection to a faithful son went back to their home. That was not end of the bad time of and sufferings. Muhammad soon lost his uncle and veteran Sheikh of Banu Hashim. Abu Talib was soon followed by the faithful Khadija, the first convert of the Prophet, his beloved wife, advisor, and comforter. Hearing of respite from siege and boycott, many of immigrants to Abyssinia came back, but they soon met an intensified persecution, were subjected to endless suffering. To preach in Mecca seemed helpless. To preach in Mecca seemed hopeless, and to provoke the Qurayshis was not the best of wisdom. The Prophet then turned his hope away from his tribe and city to other cities and tribes. The nearest and the strongest competitor of Mecca was the city of Taif, 50 miles southeast of Mecca. With his servant Zaid, the Prophet walked up the Rat mountain to that city. He visited the tribal leaders and quietly asked their help. He was refused and badly treated, dismissed and followed by vagabonds and street urchins who drove him on and would not allow him to rest. He became exhausted. His feet bleeding, he sat and appealed to the Almighty for his mercy. The prayer that ensued has become one of the cherished legacy of the faithful appealing to God in desperate circumstances. He gathered strength and continued on his way back to Mecca, reaching it there 3 days later. Zaid was concerned and asked the Prophet whether he did not fear thrusting himself into the hand of the Qurayshis, who continued to plot against the powerless in the city. God will protect his religion and his prophet, was the reply. The Makkan had learned of the prophet's reverses at all times and were preparing a degrading reception for him. None of the Makkan chiefs trained from whom Muhammad requested protection for safe entry into the city would extend him help. But a good-hearted pagan chief at Mu'im's Ibn Adi took him under his protection and brought him home. Thus this Muhammad re-entered Mecca, guarded by a polytheist, scoffed at by his fellow citizens, and pitied for his lot by his helpless followers. In that sad year, recurring calamities and gloom, when tragedy seemed about to engulf Muhammad's mission, a gleam of hope came to sustain him. During the pilgrimage season and the sacred month, when the tradition laws forbade violence, the Prophet had, by happy chance, converted a few people from Yathrib who swore allegiance to him. They returned to Aqaba in the spring of after Christ 621 with the good news that his faith was being accepted by many in Yathrib. They were accompanied by 12 representatives of the two principal tribes, Aus and Hazrat, who in Muslim history later became known as Ansar, helpers. The Yathrib delegation told the Prophet that their people were willing to accept Islam and pledged, "We will not worship save one God. We will not steal, nor commit adultery, nor kill our children. We will in no wise slander, nor will we disobey the Prophet in anything that is right." This pledge was later called the first Bay'at al-Aqaba, pledge of al-Aqaba. The second came a year later, following the pilgrim's season, when 70 of the Yathribites came again to Aqaba and secretly pledged themselves and their people to defend the Prophet as they would defend their own wives and children. Makkah was no longer a safe place for the Muslim to reside in. The Prophet then directed those who had returned from Abyssinia and other converts to immigrate and head for Yathrib. Quietly, they started to move out. In a few months, more than 100 families left their home and migrated to Yathrib. The crises were on their guard. The migration of the Prophet to a rival city was harmful to them, and they were determined to prevent it all at all costs. They decided to kill him, but collectively, representatives of all clans would plunge their sword into him, so that the Hashemites faced with this joint responsibility would be prevented from taking vengeance on a single clan. That's all for today, and God willing, we will continue later. May God bless you wherever you are.